Hi, and welcome to today's video as we start to reflect on the third week of Advent. Today, Father Brian sits down and shares his thoughts and his reflections on the theme of joy in God's presence. Thank you for continuing to join us along this Advent journey, and we hope these words will continue to inspire you throughout the rest of this Advent season. And now, for Father Brian's reflection.
I think when we think about God's presence, it's sometimes it makes you wonder if we limit ourselves at times. Because I think that when we think about God's presence, I remember the last time you heard me talk on this, I talked about how that we always remember we're in the holy presence of God. But I also remember this too. It's like, the presence of God is also that great sense of understanding of how we're always enveloped in the love of God. That never leaves us, never goes away, is always with us. So when we talk about trying to find joy in the presence of God, it's, we have the joy comes when we have that understanding, that realization, that experience of that love of God with us at all times. And we're loved by a God who never stops loving us. We're loved by a God who loves us so much, he sent his son Jesus Christ so that he may, show us how to be children of God, show us how to be disciples, show us how to pray, but then also show us how to live and be that disciple in his death and resurrection, in his sacrifice. He then showed us how to have that great love that God has for us. So that joy in the presence of God is also that realization that love that he gives to us especially in our own baptism, in the sacraments that we receive that same presence that is always around us directly into our hearts. The sacraments give us that great joy, because joy is being in that presence of God. And joy is living out and having the knowledge of that love of him. Our gospel today, or this Sunday, is where the disciples of John come to visit Jesus. And he asks them a question: what are you here looking for? And what's interesting is that it makes you wonder if the disciples that were of John that were coming to Jesus, if things were a little bit different than what they expected. Because people always wonder about what kind of Messiah people are waiting for. Because I think there are a couple of different ones. The people had thoughts about what kind of Messiah, because we all know that some people will talk about the knowledge of people wanting like a Messiah that will come and free Israel and have that the one here on earth. But what's interesting is that there's also a book that I read many years ago. It's a great book. It's called Jesus and the Jewish Roots of the Eucharist. And what he said in that book was this. He said, if you actually read a lot of the early writings of the church, what people were looking for was called the new Moses. Because Moses said, God will raise up a prophet just like me. And if you think about it, what did Jesus fulfill? The Eucharist. We call the new manna, the new bread from heaven. The way Jesus taught with authority that no one did since Moses. So it's just a great reminder that sometimes when we come into the presence of God, the question is the same question Jesus has for us. What are you looking for? What are you seeking? And that great reminder to us, the joy in his presence is a seeking his love. And that love that we need deep in our hearts that will provide that healing, that peace, that life, that eternal life that we experience here and now in that presence of God in front of us, is preparing us for our hearts so that God may help us know his love here and forever in heaven. So let us today, in this Gaudete Sunday, the Sunday where we wear the rose vestments, not the pink vestments, the rose vestments. It's a great, because rose is the color of joy. Joy in the presence of Christ in the midst of Advent, in his preparation for his coming. And it's at Christmas, in our hearts every day, and forever with him in heaven.
From myself and from the parish family of Incarnation and St. Francis, thanks for joining us, and have a very blessed Advent.